Welcome to our podcast. This is Friends on Fire.
I'm Mike. I'm a lifelong devotee of financial independence. I even wrote a book about it.
And I'm Maggie, a newer convert, but just as passionate, especially on the intersection of minimalism and financial independence.
We're one and the same.
We are two like-minded friends who believe that talking about money with your friends and family opens the door to financial well-being.
The Friends on Fire podcast is about dispelling myths, building financial acumen, and sharing your financial independence journey with the people you care about.
This is Friends on Fire.
Do I always say, hey, Mike, first?
No.
You're looking at me. I was waiting for you to say, hey, Maggie.
Hey, Maggie.
Hey, Mike.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going. I don't know why I just couldn't think how it was going all of a sudden. It was just like, there's a lot going on. But we should restart that.
How's it going?
It's going awesome. How about you?
I am doing fantastic because I am close to my first vacation in like well over a year. And it's all I can think about. I think about it every day.
How many days away?
24.
Wow. You're like 24 days and 3 hours, but who's counting?
Yeah. Who's counting? Did you know, I'm not sure if you subscribe to this, but do you believe that a good portion of the satisfaction of travel comes from the lead up, the anticipation?
Totally.
Yeah. I love planning it. I love thinking about it.
I do love planning things, but I will tell you lately, and maybe it's just a little bit of like post-COVID hangover that's wearing off. This isn't like a muscle I have as well strengthened as other things. Like my muscle of putting on sweatpants is very well strengthened, but I got to practice researching and planning vacations. I'm going out of town on a quick like 3-day hiking trip this weekend with my husband, and I have to do there's like really bad Wi-Fi and cell signals where we're going. So I really need to like pre-plan everything. And we're going to be like pretty deep in the woods. And we got to figure out these hikes we're going to do and where we're going to be and the directions for all this stuff. And it's like daunting for me to like plan all that. Like I'm like, can someone just tell me where to go?
So Maggie, I got a deal for you.
Yeah. Ooh, are you going to plan it for me?
So we are planning a joint family vacation. Your family and my family.
Oh, I was like, who? That sounds like fun.
You, this person
are you
I'm
going to
talking
plan
to,
the whole thing?
I will plan the entire thing for you. All you have to do is show up.
Have you told your wife about this vacation?
Yeah, she's totally on board.
Okay. Well, I was just curious because I don't think I had ever really told Greg. Like we used to talk about it at work because it was just like a kind of a joke. Not joke because it was serious, but it was like a lofty goal for like, multiple years in advance. And I told Greg about it like the other day, maybe just a month or two ago. And he was like, are you serious? Are we really doing that? And I was like, yeah, it's like planned. Anyways, I just thought it was funny that I forgot to tell him about this joint family vacation.
Yeah. You and I have been talking about it for a year.
Yeah.
You did not tell your family about it.
Yeah. Well, they'll go wherever I take them. They're excited. Which
will be wherever I plan it, apparently, right?
Yeah. You're in charge.
Okay, good.
I don't like layovers, so just direct flights, please.
I don't know. Layovers and good airfare, not always compatible.
I know, you're right.
So you just got to, listen, if you don't want to plan it, you got to go with what I do.
I need the bougie factor to be like high enough for me that I can't like have to get on too many different planes.
Oh my God. I'm regretting this.
Okay.
Okay. So today's episode, we are going to talk about a follow-up to last week's episode about revenge spending, where we talked about travel a little bit. Specifically, we're going to talk about vaccinations.
Let's start with you saying the word vaccinatation 5 times in a row.
Vaccinatation, 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 vaccinatation.
That's impressive. I couldn't even say it once. Okay. You already said what a vaccinatation is, right?
In the last episode, but I'll refresh our listeners. So a vaccinatation is your first vacation after you've been vaccinated. It is the dream trip that you've been wanting to do or might have already been canceled in the previous year.
I also would like to like add to your definition, like yes and.
Okay.
It is also, I don't think it has to be one vaccination. I think it could be like I have a series of vaccinations planned. Like I did one with my husband. It was like a bigger, we went to Costa Rica, and then like we're going to do one with the kids this summer. And then we're going to do some like small I have like a whole year of vaccinations planned. Does it have to just be one trip?
I mean, this is not a formal definition. You can certainly challenge it and create your own definition.
I'm just saying, you know, don't limit it. Back to our like revenge travel. I'm having like a year of revenge travel. I got a lot to make up for.
I mean, you could have the next 10 years be your vaccinations. Technically, you're vaccinated. Great. You're on vacation. I think
retire a vaxication. We should come up with a mashup of that.
I'll let you work on that one.
Okay. My early retire vaxication. Okay.
So as everybody knows, travel is a huge part of our lives. It is one of our spending priorities. It gives us great joy. It is what we like doing with our free time. It is what we want to do more of with our lives.
It also happens to be our profession.
So we also work in travel.
We also work here.
Yes, I forgot about that piece. So we think about it and work on it every day. So as people are planning their trips, specifically summer trips, because now is the time where people are starting to get fully vaccinated and school's out. The timing's actually kind of good, all things considered. We thought we'd give you some tips on how to negotiate the changing environment, because if you haven't been looking at hotels and cars and airfare and events and that sort of stuff, the environment is very different. And so if you try to plan a trip the way you would have a year and a half ago, then I think you are going to find yourself with some frustrations.
So we're going to jump into 11 tips.
And we started with 10 tips, and then you added an 11th. And I'm curious to see where you added this one and why you thought it was so critical that we should, instead of having a round number, we go with 11.
Well, here's the deal. I stuck it down at the bottom, but also
can we call it 10B?
No, we're going to call it number 11. You want to know why?
Why?
Because I read an article. It was like a research study years ago that things that are like articles that are like 10 tips, blah, blah, don't do as well and get clicked on as much as things that have like funky numbers, like unique numbers. Like, so one time I did a whole presentation that was like 13 reasons to blah, blah, blah. Because it was like having some random number actually like pulls people in more than the like, 5 tips or 10 tips.
So you're saying, Mike, you're an idiot for your 10 tips.
Yeah,
no one's going to listen to that episode.
Yeah. 11 tips is where it's at.
All right. You're right. 11 tips. Let's do it.
So number 1, this should go without saying, but prior to you traveling, the whole spirit of a vaxication is that you should get vaccinated, because that's what makes it so much easier and more safe and respectful for others around you to actually now be able to travel. So if you haven't yet gotten vaccinated, we're not really encouraging that you actually go out there and travel. It's not worth it for you or the other people around you. So we as
citizens of the world,
as responsible citizens and humans of the world, please get vaccinated.
Number 2, if you want to do something this summer, you should start planning right now. The trend
Things are getting crazy.
Yeah, the trend in travel, surprisingly, is very short windows between booking and staying. So booking your hotel and then on a Wednesday and staying on a Friday. And so this is going to create changes, like rapid changes in demand, which changes price. And so the best thing you can do is start planning and then booking your travel as soon as possible.
Another thing along with this, Mike, that's important as you're thinking about why you should start planning now is if you want to do any travel hacking, like signing up for a credit card to get a bonus and actually using that bonus, most of them have some period of time where you have to like spend a certain amount of money to get that bonus. So like there was something I wanted to do in Costa Rica that I realized they had some hotels that were our competitors there. We didn't have any hotels. And I was like, oh, I totally could have signed up for this credit card and stayed for, a whole week for free. But I didn't have the lead time to do it, right? I was too late. And so, like, again, another thing as you're thinking about, start planning now is consider if there is a credit card. Like we both just signed up for the Delta Reserve credit card and got 125,000 miles, which is, a couple $1,000 worth of miles. Great deal. And I didn't even tell you, I ended up doing 2 in our household. So we both decided to do it.
That's great.
It was too good of a deal to pass up. And we're going to be living large in some airport lounges this summer. I'm going to get to the airport like 8 hours early and just like have multiple meals there and really get my money's worth. Be like, oh, sorry, my flight's delayed. They're going to be like, you've been here since 8 a.m. Your flight's not till 6.
Been here since 8 a.m. 3 days ago.
Do you guys have free childcare here?
So for people keeping track, that was still number 2. I'm going to move on to number 3. avoid the tourist traps. Not only should you avoid them because they're tourist traps, unless that's your thing, in which case go for it if you love packed beaches.
Yeah, no judgment.
Yeah.
You revenge travel your way to every tourist trap you want to go to.
Right. Not for me, but if that's your thing, do it. But popular beaches and places where the first place that comes to mind when you think of a good summer trip, those places are going to be totally packed. And as a result, they're going to be super expensive. And so a trick for testing out how busy it will actually be testing the price at different periods of time. And so if you are thinking about a trip a month from now, check the hotel price this weekend versus when you want to go in a month. And if the hotel price now is $100 and in a month it's $500, you know that place is packed. If it's $100 now and maybe $120 in a month, you're probably okay. This is not going to be a perfect indicator of how busy the place will be, but it's pretty good because whether it's hotels or airfare or car rentals, they have very sophisticated ways of capitalizing on demand.
Yeah, and you can do the same thing in terms of checking those trends with airfare prices too, where a lot of the sites now have the view where you can see the calendar, a few months out of where you want to go to, and you'll see certain weeks that are just significantly cheaper, days of the week or times of the year. So yeah, it's a great time to try to choose your timing to get a good deal. So number 4 is when you're thinking about airfare, realize that it still can be quite expensive. And though a lot of airlines have suffered, all airlines have suffered very heavily over the past year, prices are starting to go up already because demand is increasing. And that's how hotels and airlines, that's how they manage their revenue, is based on supply and demand. And so they're having to rehire people, right? The travel industry is frantically rehiring people right now to aid in recovery. Anyways, point is prices are already expensive and actually still going to continue to go up. And so getting in those airfare deals can be really important. And I think, one thing that's kind of similar to Mike's point earlier around kind of avoiding the tourist traps is recognize that, certain really popular destinations are going to be, really expensive. Consider alternative destinations where you can score a deal. So when my husband and I went to Costa Rica a few weeks ago, we went there because that's where we could get a really good Sky Miles deal. So we were able to go for a very small point value compared to other places. And we had kind of the types of places we wanted to go. And there were 2 places that had really good prices on airline miles, but whatever values of, what do you call it?
Redemption rate?
Redemption rates. Yeah. On airline miles. And it was Bermuda and Costa Rica. And we'd always wanted to go to Costa Rica, and it was like a specific airport in Costa Rica too. And the point is, you may not pick the first place you want to go because it's going to be terribly expensive. Like figure out what's a little bit less expensive right now and find a good deal and start there. You got plenty of time to go all the other places you want to go.
I was talking to a guy at work who was trying to pick a spring break destination for his family. And he wanted to go to Mexico. And he was saying that flights from Atlanta were $2,000.
That is crazy.
To Mexico. I went to Detroit on a similar time frame to go to Ann Arbor. And guess how much my ticket was?
30. Did they pay you to go?
Yeah,
just kidding.
Right.
I don't know, like 130?
$98.
Wow, good.
Flights,
what'd you fly on?
That flight, Delta.
Wow.
Delta Direct. That flight is normally $250 to $400.
Honestly, I'm being totally serious. That kind of makes me want to go to Detroit. I've never been, and I've heard like Detroit's got some cool stuff going on.
Number 5, and this one is still surprising to me. You might need to forgo the car rental. So in the depths of the shutdown last year, car rental companies had to sell a ton of their inventory. And the result is a massive supply gap where demand is now cannot be met. And so if you can get a car, this is a big if, you are going to pay a ton of money. You could be paying $200 a day for a sedan that might have otherwise cost you $25.
Yeah. I hope this gets fixed. I was just looking for a car in Albuquerque, New Mexico to drive to a trip in Colorado that I have in October with some friends. It was $2,000 for a minivan for 4 to 5 days.
It's unbelievable.
Usually I would have paid like $150 for a minivan. Usually a regular car would be like $30 or $40, and a bigger SUV might be $100 a day. And I would be like, okay, I need to splurge because it's basically 2 cars for this big group of people. But I was like, $2,000? You've got to be. I might just buy a car when I get there, actually.
Yeah, no kidding. You could like lease a car for a year for that much.
I was going to buy like a clunker and then just leave it on the side of the road when I'm done.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Okay. We'll do a whole nother episode on that strategy. But yeah, shocked at the price of car rentals lately. Well, on that point, Mike, about the price of car rentals, because there are certain trips where you just can't get by without a car, right? If you're traveling with your family, all sorts of things. I mean, what would be some of your recommendations if the price of car rentals is just, putting you out of the market? Like just Uber the whole time, which those prices have been higher also.
That's an excellent question. So it has to be one of the factors in your trip planning decision. And if you're like, I need to go see my family and they're in this destination, so like you are locked into a specific destination, you should, yes, consider Uber. I've read articles where people are renting like U-Haul vans and driving those around. You can rent cars from car dealerships.
I put the kids in the back of the U-Haul.
Yeah. There are like car sharing programs, which the names escape me because this was not prepared in our notes.
Yeah.
But I think you need to, if you are definitely locked into a place where you cannot rent a car or the price of the car is like 3 times the cost of your entire trip, you should explore some of these other options.
Yeah, I've done Zipcar. I know you said the names were escaping you. I've done Zipcar before. I can't remember what city we were in that we did it. It was an interesting experience. I think it was in California somewhere, like San Francisco. There's also Hire Car, HYRE Car, Turo, TURO.
Turo was the one I was thinking of.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I was just thinking that like at that price, it would be an interesting concept to just, if you knew someone in a city being like, geez, I pay you $100 a day. Can I borrow your car? If you have 2 cars, you're not using one. I guess
if somebody's coming to Atlanta and wants to pay me $100 a day to borrow my 2003 Ford Explorer, by all means.
We're going to need to adjust the rate that you rent that at.
$10?
We might need to pay them to take it out for a spin since you're not driving it much lately.
Just bring it back full and it's yours.
That's funny. But yeah, get creative because don't feel like a traditional rental car company is your only path for getting access to a vehicle. It might be that you really only need a ride to your hotel, and then you can, rent bikes. You can rent, there's a lot of other things you could do to kind of get by throughout the trip, depending on who all's on that trip.
And this reminds me, so while my flight to Detroit was $98, guess how much 2 nights of car rental was?
$350?
No, not that bad. $142. But historically, I pay like $17 a day to rent a car.
And was that with like a budget, like a very discounted car rental company?
It ended up being Hertz.
Or like a big name.
It was. Okay. They're all the same. I did it on Priceline, and you can do it where they give you one of the mystery ones. Yeah, you don't know who.
Okay. Number 6 is all around hotel deals and finding a good deal similar to what we talked about on airfare and car rentals. There are many good deals to be found on hotels in areas that are still recovering, right? So similar to our points earlier, look at the prices of where you're going, think about where you could use hotel credits, miles, etc., and look for good deals on hotels. And then also look at things like Airbnb, VRBO for house rentals if you have a bigger crowd, if you have a bigger crew with you, and something like that makes sense.
And number 7, if you can't find good deals on hotels or airfare, consider using your points. Hopefully you listened to our travel hacking episode or you are already into that. But don't waste them. So make sure that you're getting a good redemption rate. So just like hotels and airlines and car rentals are going to raise prices to capture demand, the price in points or miles is also going to fluctuate. And so a good redemption rate for airfare is going to be 2 cents a mile. And for hotels, depending on which loyalty program, 0.5 cent to 1 cent per point. So make sure that you're doing the math by dividing the cost of the booking, or what you would pay if you were paying in cash, divided by the number of points to get that redemption rate. So don't waste your points, but it could be a good opportunity to save some cash.
Okay. Number 8 is consider skipping the restaurants. You can save a lot of money by cooking your own food and preparing your own food while on a trip. So again, if you can find a place with a kitchen or a kitchenette, or at least a fridge, you can save a lot of money.
Fridge and microwave.
A fridge and a microwave, right? You can save a lot of money by using those things and just not eating every meal out, right? So we've talked about this in some other episodes. I can't remember what episodes, honestly, but just the idea of, getting creative in terms of, bringing different snacks with you, breakfast. If you can just have, some cereal bowls and spoons and milk in your fridge, that's breakfast for, your whole family. And you don't have to eat that meal out. Stay at a hotel that offers you. We have a Holiday Inn Express, amazing free breakfast. Our kids love when we stay at that hotel. But consider just ways so that you're not eating out every single meal. And it could just be that you're buying, you're going to different markets. I know you've talked about this when you travel internationally, even of like, instead of going out and eating at a restaurant, go to a little local market and kind of get like picnic style food and different snacks and things that you can have. It's so much cheaper than having every meal out at a restaurant. So it is a great way to save money while you are traveling.
And if you have young kids, it's not terribly pleasant to go to a restaurant with them.
It is not.
Which is why we have been doing the picnic style eating on a lot of our trips. It's just because it's more enjoyable.
Yeah, I love to hit a town, even when we don't have, anything more than a tiny fridge in our hotel room. I will, go to a grocery store and get a loaf of bread and some peanut butter and some jelly and some snacks and some fresh fruit and other things. The kids are happier. They like that food better than they like stuff that they can get at a restaurant. And it's so much less expensive. Win, win, win.
Number 9, when it comes to events or access to certain areas, you might need to pre-order your tickets and battle it out for limited spots. So this is something that is coming as a direct result of COVID and social distancing requirements. And I have gone through this for a couple things for our trip out to Colorado. Starting with Rocky Mountain National Park. They now have a timed entry system where they have 250 spots open to get into the park for every 2-hour block. And they opened those tickets up at 8 a.m. Mountain on, May 1st, I think it was. And I was waiting there to get in and reserve a spot to get into the park.
Did you get them? I'm in suspense.
I did. I got a bunch of them for every day that we were there.
Nice.
Now you still need to go buy a ticket to the park for a week, which is like $35, but you had to go reserve these timed entry positions. And we also signed our kids up for a couple days at camp in Colorado, a place that I went to as a kid. And same thing, had to go and sign up at a specific time for a certain number of spots.
Wow,
and so
it's like a day camp that you can just, that's really cool.
Yeah. And so I think this is going to become the new normal, definitely for this year and maybe for the next 12 months or so, as people still struggle with how to limit capacity on certain things. Yeah. So just like we said at the start of this episode, like start planning now, but like go figure out the activities you want to do now. Do not wait until you get there, because you may find out that you missed the ticket window by 3 months.
On a related note that, probably this should have been our number 1 tip is, research the location you're going to first and cost out any unique COVID related travel requirements that they may have. So there are many, this is particularly relevant if you're traveling outside of the country, but there are places like you said, even with that park, Mike, of like, you wouldn't be going to that location if you couldn't get into these national parks, right? So find that out in advance, figure out that there, are these, limited number of spots that you've got to pre-order. But right now, a really common thing when you're traveling abroad is that many countries have very specific requirements. Some are really in depth. So when we looked at going to Bermuda, which wasn't even on my list, it was just a great Sky Miles deal and it was a beach and I just wanted to get away. They had I like kudos to them for being super cautious, but it was overwhelming. Like I was like, I don't know if I can handle this. You had to take your temperature multiple times a day and log it into an app. You had to, bring your own thermometer. I mean, just all these things that I was like, okay, this is a little bit too intense for me. And almost all of these countries are requiring documentation of travel insurance, and you have to register with them in advance, and they will not let you into the country through customs without this. We experienced it when we went to Costa Rica. We had to buy travel insurance. It was way less expensive than I thought it was going to be. I thought they were going to it was a racket. There's going to be like a certain kind we had to buy. They were very flexible on the type as long as we had the right limits. And the cost was actually like under $40 for both of us for the whole week. And what it covered, I was like, I'd pay $40 for that. Because if I got stuck there, it was going to pay for like everything for over 2 weeks. And it was really robust coverage for not a lot of money. And in these times, I might actually suggest travel insurance isn't a bad idea if you can get it at a good deal. I know you're not pro insurance like that, Mike, but do you think in these current times you would make a small exception to your strong held anti-insurance beliefs?
It depends on what the coverage is. So the sneaky stuff about all of these travel insurance programs is one, almost all of them like will not pay out for pandemic related incidents, which is like a huge deal. But even on the normal stuff, like if your bag's delayed, you have $1,000. Like, no, if your bag is delayed 24 hours and then you need to go buy clothes, they will reimburse you for certain clothes. Like it's not as great of a benefit as you think. And so listen, if you are going on a trip and you think like, listen, I see the flights being delayed pretty frequently here. I have looked at the fine print of this particular policy and I know that they will just do a cash payout for every day that I am delayed and I don't have to do X, Y, and Z. Like if you know it has value to you and it's easy and it qualifies, then yes, do it. But on all of these things, like the insurance companies are there to make money off you by paying out less than they take in. They are not there to be your friend and help you out. So it just depends. My answer is it depends.
Yeah. I mean, the only flip side I would say is, yes, they're there to make money off of you, but they're also there on the odds of like, they're requiring every traveler to buy travel insurance right now in these countries. And, a really small percentage of people are actually going to get stuck there with some sort of an illness or going to catch COVID and have to quarantine there in their country for 2 weeks. And so it's like, it's like all insurance, right? We're all paying in a smaller amount to have peace of mind that if something crazy happens, and I am typically I've never buy in travel insurance, but I will say the experience of being forced to buy it for Costa Rica, and apologies, I looked it up. It was $60 for the both of us. What I saw that it covered, it was very aggressive, and it totally covers everything pandemic related, Mike, because all these policies have to right now. And so I don't know if they're like rewriting their stuff, but like if they want to be sold in these countries, and actually have travelers buying them, the country is requiring that you have certain types of insurance that does cover a pandemic. So while there's some that may not, many of them I would imagine have adjusted to that they are making different accommodations now.
Well, I'm more than happy to be proven wrong. I'm always interested in getting travel related benefits. So why don't you forward me this fine print and I'll check it out. Maybe I'll get a policy for my Colorado trip.
I'll forward it to you. The other example of a common expense is COVID tests. So many countries are, so the US, for example, when you want to get back into the US, we had to show a negative COVID, a positively negative COVID test to get back into the US. And my tip here for saving money is do your research in advance. So even when we were in Costa Rica, we were asking the hotel concierge of like where we could get tests and if they would handle it. And they were like, oh, yep, we can get someone to the hotel for you. It's going to be $130 per person. And I was like, what are you smoking? And I was like, what kind of person do you think I am? Do you know that I run a frugal living podcast? Like, why would I ever pay $260 to get back into the US? I'll just stay there. And so I did a lot more research. We found there was a place by the airport. It was less than half the price. But also I did a ton of research. There's home tests that some countries actually do take, and you can buy tests for pretty cheap that you travel with and like do yourself. And they're like $20-$30 a pop. Some places are accepting them, some aren't. So do your research is my point, but don't just show up in a country and not know what you have to do to get back into your home country, right? Do that research in advance.
Good point.
Figure out the most, cost-effective yet safe methods to make sure that you follow their requirements. Because again, things are starting to open up, but we are still in the midst of, not the middle, I hope, but we're in the midst of a global pandemic. And we do still need to be very careful about COVID.
And on that note, number 11, be respectful and wear a mask and wear it properly, please.
Over your nose.
Yeah, over your nose. And because this is our episode on vaccinations, congratulations on being vaccinated. You are ready to go travel. You deserve it. But be mindful that we have a societal responsibility to end this pandemic. So even if you are unlikely to contract COVID, your example helps reinforce good behavior and will get us through this faster. This is not a hard thing to do. Just wear a mask.
Yep. And you're not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it for everyone around you. Okay. Top 3 takeaways.
All right. Number 1, start planning right now. Like as soon as this episode is done, put your phone down, go start planning your trip.
Number 2, consider some destinations away from the summer surges and a little bit off the beaten path. There are still tons of amazing destinations that are not quite as popular and crazy as some places right now.
And number 3, treat this like any other vacation by controlling your costs for the little things and focus on the memorable events you'll take back with you.
Okay, this is making me inspired to go do some research for my trip this weekend and one of our summer trips.
So pumped.
Yeah, I'm excited. Where are you going in 24 days?
Colorado.
I thought that was a different trip later in the year. I didn't realize that was your Colorado trip. I thought you were going to Maine. There was a time you told me you were going to Maine.
I am going to Maine.
Okay, I can't
Maggie,
remember.
I must have said Colorado 10 times in this episode. I know on this
trip, but I thought you were talking about a trip in the fall to Colorado. I didn't realize that was the trip in 24 days.
Yes, in 24 days, I'm going to Colorado.
You're going to Colorado. That's exciting. A little bit after you, we're going to visit Greg's mom in St. Thomas for 2 weeks. We're really excited.
That'd be great.
Yeah, the kids have never been. They're pumped. Okay. We appreciate you all listening. If you have been challenged or inspired by anything you've heard, please rate and review the show. We really appreciate it. Those ratings on Apple Podcasts in particular are super helpful. So if you've ever thought like, oh gosh, I really enjoy listening to Mike and Maggie. They're so awesome. Or Mike's really awesome and Maggie's okay. And I wish she would stop talking so much. Go leave a review and just include the part about how Mike's awesome. I know I talk too much. You don't need to say it.
And if you have any thoughts or questions, we'd love to hear from you. And you can leave us a voicemail or text us at 404-981-3370 or hit us up on Instagram.
Okay. Good discussion. I'm excited for your Colorado vaxication.
Thank you.
Now that I put 2 and 2 together and realize where you're going. It only took me 30 minutes to catch on.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, Mike.
Bye, Maggie.